Hello.
Hey there.
Hey, how are you doing? Good. How are you doing today?
I'm fabulous, thank you.
Good. So if you could share with us your history, kind of when you started getting treated, or before you started seeing me, what happened, and then what led you to me, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. I think it's important to say that I had a lot of trauma as a child, growing up in foster care, and anything that could happen does happen.
Right.
In foster care children, so there was a lot of that there, and although I went to years of therapy, got to be a better person, there's just and so did not want to take pills. Just
Right.
refused. I mean, and it's because I think back, I don't know, I'm just speaking for myself, but back when I was younger, I'm 50 now, but I was never diagnosed as ADHD. I was never, somehow I slipped through the system. And, I think that they tried to get, I started to have panic attacks. And I literally thought I was going crazy because no one had ever explained to me what that is. And I didn't know. I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to end up in a loony bin. And then finally I found, someone said, hey, you're probably having anxiety attacks. You should start taking medication. And of course, back then, they were giving me like really, really hard SSRIs and just really strong.
Like what?
So that being like Valium, and my stepsister, the one who ended up, eventually adopting me, the family that ended up adopting me would cry because she's like, I hate you on that. I was a zombie. Mm-hmm. So cut to fighting that, and then going through years and years of just painful, trying to do it on my own, trying every dang thing possible. And then finally, I met with a therapist who knows you and highly recommended you. And she was like, well, you need to go see Dr. Corona because I think he'll have a way of explaining things that will make you feel just a little bit better, and he might be able to help you. And that's what led me to you. And I think, there's two things in play here. There's one, I was obviously ready to hear it because it was like, I tell people it's like the Blair Witch Project. I would go to bed going, because it would always, for some reason, happen at night. I'd be like, oh my God, I have another night. It's going to start. When's it going to start? And probably made it worse, exasperated it. So that being said, I went to see you, and the way you explained it just really, really hit home and was pretty life-changing. Like literally life-changing in terms of the ADHD, which obviously I'm assuming must exasperate the panic attacks. And now on top of the panic attack, let's now put on the ADHD. The ADHD, which was me. I tell people, I'm like, they're like, what's the difference? And you can stop me if you want to, but I'm like, they were like, what's the difference when you take that medication? I said, if you truly have ADHD, which I'm off the charts, it's like there's like a superpower guy with a superhero who I don't know if it's Ant-Man, I don't know. Mm-hmm. He has to go underwater because he cannot sleep, and it blocks everything out. And I said, that's what it's like. It's like suddenly you take this pill, and it eventually starts to work, and it blocks out all of the extremities that would normally catch your attention, like squirrel. So right there you have it. I think I covered everything.
Well, yeah, and I think people don't understand the importance of treating ADD, and people think, well, stimulants, isn't that like speed? Isn't that like meth? No, it's not. But isn't that going to increase your anxiety because aren't you taking the stimulant? Actually, if you have ADD, a stimulant's actually calming. It actually calms the brain down. It can actually also lower anxiety. And so now if it's someone is feeling speedy on something like Adderall or whatever, either the dose is way too high or it's not the right diagnosis. And now and I think you were already on Zoloft when I first saw you, right? You had been on that in the past.
Yes, I was, but It was, I don't think it was a lot, but I think because I had told you, okay, and just to kind of back up a little bit, because I think it's important that you just said something very poignant. One of the reasons why I was like refusing to take ADHD was exactly what you said. I'm like, I mean, medication. I'm like, you have this thought process, this idea that it's going to make you crazy. It's going to make you, I'm like, I'm already hopped up and anxiety. Oh gosh, that's going to throw me over the edge. I'm going to freaking jump off the edge. And again, I wish I could, it was on camera. I could like tell the people, like tell everyone that how you explained it was so great. And you had said to me, and I think these are the exact words I needed to hear was, well, if you had, and I hope I don't offend anyone because I'm not saying that mine or anyone's is worse or better, but if you had a condition and you had to take medication to survive, you would take the medication, and you cannot survive the way you're going.
Right.
And it's funny because like I've turned out to be very successful, which is great. I'm very blessed.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Lord. But like you said, like, and that kind of turned the page for me, and it was life changing. Like I just feel like I got the biggest thing I hear from people is, oh my gosh, you're looking at me when I talk to you. But back to what I was saying, so is that it's important to know that like when I started taking it, if you really truly have it, it doesn't do that. It's almost, when people say, oh, take caffeine if you have ADD. I've heard people say that.
Right.
Well, that's kind of like what the pill is. Why would I have to take coffee? I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, it's more efficient. I mean, a lot of people say, I'll just do a bunch of power drinks. Well, those aren't really that good for you. And then, but that's what most people do. But there's so much anti-medication out there, mentality out there, who people just think taking these medications are just like the worst thing you can do. You have to be stronger, you have to try harder, you're not trying hard, you're being weak if you have to take a pill. None of that's true, but unfortunately that's what people are exposed to out there. I mean, I know there's some podcasters I could name right now, which upsets me when I hear them say these things, but they think that taking ADD medication is like the worst thing in the world, or taking an antidepressant, taking an SSRI like you're taking Zoloft is terrible, that you should just there's something you're not doing, or you're less than, or whatever. It's complete nonsense. And I like to explain, like I said, with me, with every one of my patients, and the people who's watching the show know, like when I go to my whiteboard and explain, I do that with every patient. With every patient comes in, I draw them the neurons, the synapses. I explain, here's what the medication is doing, because I think people need to see it, and I think so many doctors dismiss them and say, here, just take this pill, and they say, what do? I don't know, just take it and we'll talk later. They kind of, people leave without an explanation, and they're much less likely to take things if they're not explained. If it's not explained, people can understand a blood test. Oh, my thyroid is low, or I'm anemic. Oh, okay, I'll take a thyroid supplement, or I'll take iron or whatever. Because it's on a piece of paper, and it seems like, oh, that's more real because it's a real problem, because it's you can prove it. And with these conditions, we can't really prove it in that way. We can't scan the brain to see it. We can't do blood tests. We can't take urine tests. None of those things actually show the problem, and so we have to find out the problem by seeing if the medications work. And so we kind of find out after the fact if I'm right about the medication and the neurochemical that's off kilter, then the medication will work. If I'm not right, then it won't work, and then I have to relook at it and say, okay, I'm not right all the time. You have to be wrong to be right. I call it rational trial and error, because you don't know exactly until you try things. I'm a good guesser. When I talk to people, I can pretty much I can get it pretty nailed down fairly quickly within a visit to 2 at the most, usually maybe 3, but not usually. Because I learn quickly, and when someone's taking something, I tell them, if you don't like this and you're going to want to stop it, call me right away. So if you don't like it, then there's something wrong. If you don't like some side effect or whatever, it's probably the wrong thing. I need to relook at it. And people, when they know that they can call me and I'll call them back, they're much more likely to try things, because then they realize that, okay, I guessed wrong the first time, but you know what? Now that I learned that, I'm going to guess right the second time. And it's not guessing. It's definitely, there is a rational basis behind the guessing. That's why I call it rational trial and error. But I think people don't understand how important it is to treat these things. And with you, it's just two simple things, Zoloft and Adderall, to make such a vast difference in your life.
Well, I invite people to, a lot of times people who are saying, look, you don't need that. And I was one of them. And I was going through it. And it's like, why would you want to make your life miserable and everyone else around you miserable? And the other thing I say is, I invite you to go through what some of us are going through. A lot of times, and then the other thing I was thinking as you were talking is, not everyone's privy to holistic medicine or even know anything about it if that's what they're taunting, like, you shouldn't take that, you shouldn't take this. And I'm speaking for myself. I went through years and years and years of making, people around me miserable because I have anxiety. I can't pay attention. And there's a whole book on how ADHD is so hard to deal with in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. There's all kinds of things that you're doing in a relationship. I had no clue until I actually read a book. And then, like I said, I finally sat down after meeting you and started feeling better and taking the medication. And, it's life-changing. And then it's so crazy. I've gone through this with you. I'll stop taking it. You'll say, oh, how you doing? Because you always check in. And I'm like, oh, doing great. And then suddenly I won't check in. And you're like, okay, Trace, how's it going? I'm like, I'm a mess. I'm like, I stopped it. Did you stop? Yes, I did. And it's not like I'm a mess. It's just there's a difference.
Right.
And again, it's like I keep reminding myself. And even my boyfriend's like, Trace, why do you fight it? I still kind of fight it sometimes. And because here's, the last time I went to, oh, by the way, just FYI, I go to get the medication and I'm treated like a druggie.
Yeah, I know. It's really unfortunate.
I don't need you to give me a lecture on, and I'm like, it's just sad.
It is.
I'm like, give me a break. And by the way, I'm still dealing with this, I'm not going to say who it is, but this particular pharmacy. And I'm like, oh, good, dear God, just stop.
I know.
It's not like I come in here, saying I lost my prescription. Can you give me 5? I actually come in late all the time because I'm like, oh, shoot, I have to do this.
Right.
Anywho.
Yeah, and I think, I think you explained it perfectly, and it is life-changing, and I think, but people think, oh, if it's so life-changing, there must be something wrong. It must be addictive. It must be, if it's that great. I mean, people have this notion that if it's great, there's got to be something wrong with it, Well, no, how about if it's great just because we're balancing your neurochemicals and that your body isn't able to do that on its own because of your genetics and it can't, And so, I mean, and you're right, it doesn't even just affect work, it affects relationships, it affects your whole life. Not only school is school and work is work, but also life and communication, listening skills. I have in my new book, The Corona Protocol, I have a funny story. The third story in my ADD chapter 4 about a guy. I won't say the story because I want the people to read it, but it really makes a difference in relationships and it centers you, so you're not constantly looking elsewhere and distracted with other things and you can't help it too. And when people go off of things, I don't get mad. I never get mad. I just, okay, why do you do that? Well, I thought, okay, well, did that work out for you? So I try to just tell people that, I think that's probably not a good idea. You probably should just accept the fact that you have these imbalances, that you should keep treating it. And so what? I mean, there's, people get really stressed out about, how long they have to take this for. And, I just tell people, look, like I've told other people, there's a lot of people who think people take longer term and they don't even think twice about it. Because they realize that they need to keep taking, whether it's insulin for a diabetic or whatever, whether it's a thyroid pill, which has to be taken typically long term. people don't think twice about it because they accept it. Okay, I have to check my thyroid occasionally, and I have to keep my thyroid. So people won't think twice about it because they say, well, yeah, but it's not addictive like that Adderall or that whatever it can be. It's like so people just keep going back to that because they don't understand it, or people who don't have ADD don't understand people who do, and they say, well, just I don't have to take stuff like that. Well, that's because you don't have it, and don't belittle people. And you're right about that. What really pisses me off about pharmacies is when they give you those looks and they give you the attitude about picking it up, and or if you have to go out of town and you have to pick it up like a few days early because you're going out of town, then they give you a whole attitude about. Yes, it's like, and then I have to call them and okay it, and it's just a big, and they think, well, it's, I think they're treating it like opiates, and I think the government also is stepping in, and there's been a big shortage of some of the medications out there. And my understanding is because the government is trying to step in and regulate the manufacturing of them, which really upsets me. Because the government should not be stepping in and doing anything like this. That's not their business, and they're making it their business. Because I think they're looking at it like, well, it's a controlled substance just like opiates, and opiates became such a problem, so this can be a problem. Well, it's not if it's being treated properly. If someone has ADD, it's a medical condition like everything else. The fact that it's a controlled substance doesn't make it any less medical. So that's why I think there's so many misunderstandings about it. It is very frustrating. It's frustrating for patients. It's frustrating for me and my staff and Leslie because she has to deal with the pharmacies and they're a pain in the butt. I mean, and it's too bad. And they should know better. I mean, they should understand the role of medications and what they're for. And some do, not to disparage all of them because it's not all of them. It's just some of them, but it's too many of them, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, it is, and it's it is. I guess it is what it is, and you just deal with it. And I think you're right that. Well, here's the thing: there's always one person or several that make it hard for everybody else.
Yeah.
In my own business, like, well, why did you do that? Well, because there were 3 people before you that made it unfortunate, and now we have to do this. So I get it, but at the same token, it's like you see somebody that's been on it for quite a while. I don't go running in. I'm always late. And as far as being addictive, I would imagine, again, I'm not a doctor and I'm not, I'm speaking for myself and my experience that I'm always late picking it up because I have ADHD. I'm supposed to do it like a couple of days before. I'm like, oh, shoot. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then I go in a couple of days late and I'm like, oh, shoot. I need to know. It's like, if it was addictive, I'd be there like on the spot.
Right.
Yeah. For me, that's for me.
And the reality is that most people who have ADD don't treat it. Okay, that's now you're going to have the other side saying it's being overtreated, and because so many people are taking these things. No, that's not the case. It's actually being undertreated because most people just either they never see a doctor who knows what they're talking, knows how to treat it. That's possible. You're going to see doctors who say, "Oh, I just don't prescribe controlled substances like that." Okay, so there's a lot of people it's really bad in Kaiser. Not to be mean, but it's terrible treating it at Kaiser because they're bad with it, and I mean Kaiser is bad with psychiatry in general. I'm sorry to say that, and I'm sorry. I hope if I'm offending you, I'm sorry, but it's true. And then in California, if you're on Medi-Cal, it's tough to get it sometimes if you see a Medi-Cal doc because they don't want to prescribe controlled substances and so it's a struggle for a lot of people to even find a doctor to give it to them. And so most people give up. And a lot of people just they say, well, that's just the way I am. I'm just an ADD person and that's who I am. And they define themselves as that. They define themselves by their condition. And then they make jokes about it. Well, that's just me. I'm just I'm just ditzy or I'm just this, and they just make fun of it or other people pay and then that's it. And then think about people, who live in the country or live in rural areas and live in who don't really have access to doctors very easily. Let's think about other countries. Okay, let's think about, I know I had a patient whose kid was on an ADD medication and she was moving back to France and where she's from. And she's like, I have to take them off it because they don't believe in ADD in France. And so in France, all the kids there don't get treated. or all the adults don't get treated because they don't give them there. So there's countries around the world, and I mean, think about the Middle East, South America, Central America, all these countries, China, Asian countries. So I can keep going on. But think about how many people around the world have a condition like this that's not treated. A lot. And now think about the same countries, people who have depression, people who have anxiety, people who have bipolar disorder. All these other countries, do you think they don't have these conditions there? Of course they do. Are they treated majority of the times? No, they're not. Some of them are, most of them aren't. And so that's our modern reality, is that, if you happen to be in an area of the country where maybe you go to a doctor who knows what they're doing, you're fortunate. Or if, hopefully, you have to go sometimes weed through a lot of doctors until you finally get to one that can actually treat things properly. And so that's what, drives me in my practice.
Sorry. I guess she's not on the line anymore. Leslie. I'm saying.
She's not on the line anymore.
Okay.
Can you hang up or something?
No.
I can't transfer it because you're talking.
Oh, wait, what's this? This is button is pushed.
Okay, hang on. Let me transfer it.
Where did I leave off?
I don't know when she disconnected. You'll have to ask her.
Well, no, you had gotten it. It's wherever you cut off.
I didn't cut you off.
I know you didn't. I'm saying whatever you left off.
Ask her.
So anyway, hello?
Yes, I lost you.
Sorry, we got cut off.
Ask her what.
Where did I leave off with you?
I'm here now. Sorry about that.
Where did I leave off?
We left off at, oh my God, I'm like, I don't know if I was like freaking out. I'm like, oh no, I lost him. I think you're just saying, in different countries, you're
good.
clients
Yeah,
that.
we can cut there.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, think about like in around the world in different countries who they don't have access to ADD medications, and they don't have access to antidepressants and mood stabilizers and all the medications I talk about on this show. A lot of people live in countries around the world, and they don't have access to treatment, so they suffer. And they suffer in silence because there's nothing they can do about it. So fortunately, we live in a country where we can actually treat these things properly. But then it's the burden of the patient to actually find a doctor who knows how to treat these things, and that's not common, unfortunately.
No,
That's my mission, because my mission is beyond the show. Is I want to teach, and I've written 2 books I think I talked to you about them. I've written 2 books because I want to set up a training program for providers to teach my methods, and so that's my next challenge is to set up a training course, because I want to spread the word. I really want to get the word out to other providers to teach them how to treat people and how to assess people and how to get people on the right medications so that's my wish for the future, and that's my future goal in my career. So yeah, so
I love that.
So thank you so much for coming on. Anything else you want to share with us?
No, I'm good. I appreciate you letting me speak and get the word out with you.
Great. I would really thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
You got it.
Thanks.
I'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
So, instead of going to the board, I mean, basically she's on a SSRI, so it's attaching to the serotonin site, moving serotonin forward, and she's on Adderall, so it moves the chemicals at the norepinephrine and dopamine sites. But, so that's what she's taking. It's working great. But, again, with ADD, what's the symptoms? It typically is a condition that you have since you're young. It has nothing to do with intelligence at all. So some people get by okay early in life, in elementary school and middle school, because they're just intelligent and they work hard and they have parents that force them to get their assignments done, and so they do okay academically because of that. But then there's some kids who aren't as intelligent, and maybe they struggle more, or maybe they, so I see both, but it really has little to do with intelligence. It just, even the most intelligent people have difficulty staying on task, organizing things, like you said, like she was saying, kind of like with the squirrel thing is like you see something there and oh, there, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to be doing this and then you're trying to get back on track. So you kind of the bill is it's hard to focus and get things done. Hard to organize things. Difficulty with just focus and concentration. And so there's a lot of signs like that, and it's frustrating for the patient because because of the fact that if you don't get treated, it doesn't treat itself. Unfortunately, some kids, the problem is the parents, so the parents don't want to treat it because my kid's too young for that. And so that's unfortunate. And even if the teachers, the doctors are saying, you really should treat your son, your daughter, whoever. No, I don't want to drug my kid, and so unfortunately, what happens to those kids? Well, they don't do as well academically. They have a higher risk of drug abuse. They have a higher risk of getting in trouble, as they're become into the teenage years, and they have more risky activities. Less chance of advancing in their life as far as their careers, more problems in their personal lives. So there's consequences. There's consequences of not treating something that's treatable, and we need to kind of get past the whole issue with stimulants and we don't want to. It just sounds wrong to people. Some people to take these things. They're wrong about that. But you can't convince some people because they believe what they believe, and they read something online, and most of them, by the way, have no medical experience and no medical degrees, but they have their opinions, and their opinions are based on people they listen to, people that influence them, and it's unfortunate because it is a condition that's easily treatable, changes people's lives dramatically. There's probably nothing more dramatic that I see in my practice than treating an adult with ADD for the first time, and the light goes on, and they think, "Oh my God! I mean, I probably should have been on this for my whole life." And I go, "Yeah," and it's less dramatic for kids because they're kids and they don't really see the difference as much, but the adults see it, the parents see it, the teachers see it. But when you get older, I think, and you get it treated for the first time, it just, or some people say, I took a couple in college, someone gave me something for a test and it really helped me, but then they never went to see anyone about it. And then they finally treat it and it changes their lives. And that's a great thing. It's, the fact that it's a controlled substance, so what? The fact that someone has to take something longer term, and they say, well, how long do I have to take it for? I was like, well, how long are you going to work for? I have people who retire, and then they say, well, can I stop it now? I go, if you want to, you can, because you're not working, but don't you want to do things? Don't you want to go and do activities? And don't you want to enjoy your retirement? Okay, well, keep taking it. And so there's no reason that even older adults can't take it as long as they tolerate it, as long as we screen them for any cardiac issues that maybe or any risk factors, and we can do that easily. So anyway, I can go on about ADD, but that's kind of the basics. Unfortunately, like I told her, most doctors don't understand it. Most doctors don't treat it correctly. That's primary care as well as psychiatry, as well as sometimes neurology, though the chances are better with a specialist. But yeah, it's a very important topic, and I wish the more people who needed help get help, and that's also everything I'm saying here is the case for depression, anxiety, everything else that PTSD, bipolar disorder, eating disorders, so many things that we see in practice that people don't get treated adequately, and it's sad. And my wish is to change that. I'm dedicating the rest of my career to make sure that's not the case, and that's why one of the reasons I'm doing this show really is to educate, to destigmatize mental health, and make sure that people understand this subject more. And I think once people understand it more, hopefully that'll lead to better treatment. And I think maybe if we can get more doctors out there to understand how to treat these things, and then I think there's a lot of hope, and that's what I'm hoping for.